Good. So hello again and welcome to the webinar, The Fastest Way to Cloud Native Success. My name is Sam Schubert. I'm with Giant Swarm, and in this webinar I would like to cover a couple of aspects that are important to you as you registered, and also to our customers that we talk to quite frequently. And this is around, well, first of all, what is actually cloud native success? Why is it important to move very quickly onto cloud native and provide and reap the benefits of cloud native? And then we'll look what holds teams back and organizations back, so we can get an idea of what areas to really focus on in terms of accelerating cloud native adoption. Take a look at some prerequisites that we frequently run into that you would need to consider, and then finally look at different options and understand where the benefits and drawbacks are of these different options, and how to really generate cloud native success very, very rapidly. So that's what I'll be covering in the webinar. If you've got any questions at any time, you can use the chat box on the right-hand side or on your control panel. That allows you to ask questions that I can pick up at the very end of the session. And I will also display my email address and phone number if there are any questions that you actually would like to delve into a bit deeper, either with me or an expert from a technology perspective. Then you're more than welcome to send me an email and get a meeting set up, and so we can actually go in and discuss this together with you. So if you actually have registered for this webinar out of the blue, and then you don't know who Giant Swarm is, and or haven't run into one of our founders at one of the many conferences we attend, I'll just give you a quick summary. Giant Swarm is a company that manages Kubernetes and the whole cloud native stack for companies, so they can then focus on their digital products. And so our mission is really to take the complexities off the shoulders of our customers, so they can really build out their digital capabilities a lot faster. And we do that by taking the open source products that are available, Kubernetes as the de facto standard for cloud native container orchestration, naturally the surrounding probably around 250 projects that help you build out all the different use cases that you may have. And we have been focused on Kubernetes since the very beginning. We were founded in 2014. That's the first year where the first release of Kubernetes became available, and we quickly adopted Kubernetes, as at that time we already had the feeling that this is going to be really, really big. Yeah, we actually are growing very, very rapidly. So the question is, what brought us to focusing on cloud native from the start? It actually results from these three guys working together for 15 years on different companies. One, and that was the one before we started off Giant Swarm, was focused on delivering a data-driven advertising platform with about 10,000 requests per second, and that is naturally an environment that requires a very reliable and scalable platform to run on. So at that time we built out this platform, the infrastructure, and our digital product at the same time, which is the advertising bidding platform. And being torn between both areas of expertise and naturally the capabilities that you require for these both areas, it actually was a quite daunting task. We had to focus on the infrastructure and on the application, the digital product at the same time. Had to make sure that everything is up and running, a very stable environment, very scalable. But at the same time, we had to build out the digital capabilities as quickly as possible. And we saw this as a huge drawback So we decided then very quickly to focus on helping companies embark on cloud native, provide an infrastructure that they could just rely on, and then build out and help them build out the capabilities as quickly as possible. After we actually sold that previous business successfully to a multinational. So that just gives you the context. Our experiences are working very, very closely together with our customers, and that's what I would like to share with you today. So why cloud native success, and why is it so important to achieve that really, really rapidly? So the business perspective, which I think is the key driver, that came up in a discussion with a customer recently, is really understanding where the business stands, and why it's important for the business side, is that there are contenders in a market that already has been built out, but then there are new entrants into this field, and these new entrants are capable of developing new functionality, innovation, to put it into one word, a lot faster than the contenders in the space. And if you look at a report from the HBR, they basically provide us insights into some statistics around this, and the companies that were really at the forefront of their market had a profit margin that was 50% higher of the contenders in that field, so the laggards that were lagging behind. And that actually shows that there is a lot of opportunity out there to really improve the efficiency of the operations and naturally delivering these digital products. And that then results in higher profit margins because you're capable of capturing that market a lot faster than your competitors. Another research conducted by Vision Critical found out that customers that are fully satisfied with the service generate about 14 times more revenue than customers that are unsatisfied, which then again brings up a point that is very at the core of cloud native, which is really bringing out products fast is not the only success criteria. It's also that you can then adapt to your customer needs and requirements very, very rapidly. And building out digital products together with your customers, being able to ship them the changes very, very rapidly allows you then to grow your revenue together with these customers, and that's something that the business is also looking for, to make sure that you fully have a product that fully matches the customer expectations, or even goes beyond the customer expectations. So it's one is profit margin, the other one is revenue. And what IT departments are also facing is the need to really flexibly adapt to the business requirements. And that's another study that was conducted in 2017 by Horvath and Partners, a management consultancy, found that 90% of the business side believes IT is not flexible enough to adapt to these requirements. So there is not only, let's say, the business perspective, but also the expectation from to grow the revenue, but also the expectation from the business side to really generate as the biggest return on investment on their investment in IT and the IT capabilities, and which then basically is a key driver for a very agile organization that can implement changes very rapidly and bring new products out to the market very rapidly. As you can see that these three dimensions, which I think are the most important ones, they actually don't focus on cost. So it's not about bringing cloud native to production because it's cheaper than developing existing applications. It has more to do with especially if you look at return on investment on the untouched business opportunities that you can then benefit from. And this is something that, it just needs to be kept in mind. I know there are many discussions out there with customers where the business side expects it cloud native then to reduce the cost of IT. Typically, that's only one side of the story that is rooted probably in the past of reducing cost of IT, but it's more realizing and embarking on a journey where you can build out markets, new markets, generate more revenue, generate higher profits is something that actually should be the key driver for the cloud native approach. There are naturally also other aspects, and I'll just pick out one very famous one, which is the comparison of Tesla versus BMW. Tesla has about 3 times more market capitalization than BMW, although they only ship a tenth of the cars that BMW ships. And that has to do with the perception of the market that Tesla is a technology company, and that's why BMW is very heavily focused on changing the company into a technology company, as many companies in addition do, and that has or can be driven by cloud native. Cloud native naturally contributes to that, but I don't know how many people are tasked with driving business capitalization or market capitalization for their company. I know the CIO of BMW is, but these are aspects that might apply to some companies, but not to others. So I won't focus on that. So the key main drivers, just to summarize, is really higher profit, higher revenue, and the ability for IT to improve the return on the investment they receive. So what does that mean for the technology side? If you look at cloud native success on the technology side, it's really one aspect being able to develop new products, new applications very, very rapidly, together with development teams, the resources that you already have, and scale up the amount of time you spend on innovation quite heavily. That is very easily achievable through cloud native, as you already have a whole stack of technology that you can reuse for all your different projects. You can then have your teams focus on building out business logic and not having to worry about many components like too much like security or reliability and other aspects that already come with a cloud native platform. Another aspect is the time to market, which I just touched in the previous slide. So being able to push out innovation and new code very, very frequently and very fast is something that is in the nature of cloud native, especially if you look at the teams that are typically of a smaller size, let's say 8 to 10 people. You can have several teams working independently, and that then allows you to come onto the scene for customers with a minimal viable product, for example, start that out, build it out, and then iterate that together with the customer, and that's what improves business agility. So making sure that you can make changes to deployments very, very rapidly and also very frequently helps you shape a product that customers are looking to enjoy using, and then spend more time with you rather than a competition. And then there are some aspects that are very important for IT. One is the higher scalability, being able to scale out applications, make sure that the response times are very low. So you actually make sure, like for example, Adidas, one of our customers, they actually want to grow their revenue from about 40 million to 4 billion of online business within 4 years. That's from 2016 to 2020, and they're on a very good trajectory to achieve that. And for them, it was also using cloud-native technologies to really scale for events like Black Friday or Singles Day, where they then need to supply a website with and an online shop with very short response times to a huge mass of people at the same time. So being able to really scale up your deployments, making sure that they are available, that the response times are very very short, is something that Cloud Native provides from the very start. And naturally also the resilience that comes with deploying your applications to different nodes, having them run in containers, so you're capable of bringing many different nodes online. If one goes down, it's not a problem, because then you still have versions of your website or your application running on different nodes that then basically can manage the load until the other node comes back. So being able to really also deploy changes frequently, make sure that they don't corrupt your existing running system, is something that makes Cloud Native very important, and it is very important to make that as quickly as possible, so you can then deliver your services to your customers in a very short period of time. And that's why it's important to really speed up your Cloud Native journey. Yeah, let's take a look into what is actually holding companies back. So if you look at the Cloud Native stack that you typically run, you've got the physical infrastructure and the virtualization. So physical being the servers in a data center, then the virtualization on top of that, so you can use many different servers in a combination. And then you typically have an orchestration engine that then helps you orchestrate the different clusters and the different containers that then run your workloads, so either your website or some other service that you build out on top of these containers. And if you look at the physical infrastructure and the virtualization, that's typically handled by a data center team or your cloud provider. And this is something that we already got used to. We have a lot of experience with. And that has been around for really a long time. Then you've got the layer that is on top of that, which is the orchestration engine. And typically you can start off with that installing Kubernetes, and then already providing your first clusters and then your first nodes and pods that run your workloads. But there are many aspects in there that need to be covered. And that's an area where you need a lot of different expertise, you need a lot of experience, where there is tons of technology out there that you can use. One, for example, for security, where you then need to make sure that the engine, the clusters are secure, that the nodes are secured, and that you, for example, deploy updates, especially security updates, very frequently, to make sure that everything stays very secure and reliable, especially when you actually then use Kubernetes. You need to make sure that that you use one of the latest versions of Kubernetes, where there are lots of bugs fixed that previous versions show, and that reduce the reliability of your platform, and as a result, the reliability of your microservices that you have deployed into these containers. Since there are many different components you use in that area, monitoring becomes very important. So you keep an eye on all the different services that make up the orchestration platform, and that you need to run to understand when something isn't available, but even more important, that you need to run to get an insight into what is happening and what can cause issues going forward. So many things we see with customers are not related to technology per se, but they're related to, let's say, configuration or applications that may drain certain nodes, and that then result in reduced reliability. And that's something that you need to keep an eye on, and you need to build out expertise in the area of observability that then helps you keep everything up and running very, very reliably and stable. And once you identify something's going wrong, you need to have the capability of going into the environment, understanding how it's being built up, what causes the issues that you have observed, and then fixing these issues. So that's a whole area of expertise in all kinds of different technologies that you need to build out to really come up with solutions really, really quickly. And then there's also an area where we actually see a lot of challenge with existing customers because from the business perspective, it's, well, let's get Kubernetes installed and we're done, which, as you may already have experienced, isn't true. There's a lot of development energy going into building out new functionality, changing that functionality, lots of apps there, as I mentioned, about 250 projects around Kubernetes that then help you implement different use cases. So it actually constantly evolves, and you might identify there are certain functionalities or apps that you may need to support certain use cases, or that you can help implement to help your development teams develop faster and make sure that once changes happen, that they don't negatively impact the workloads that you're running. So if there are breaking changes in Kubernetes or other modules, to make sure that the development teams are aware of that and can then make take precautions to implement the new functionalities in their applications, so everything keeps on running smoothly. And that has a lot to do with enablement, so making sure that the development teams understand fully what cloud native means, develop these applications in a very cloud native manner, and understand what might impact the cloud native platform and the stability of their microservice. So understanding how to go about things, how to improve, what applications to use that may replace certain services, also assessing applications that you use to run your cloud native stack and that may not be really cloud native, where we already experienced in several customer installations that the technologies they weren't using weren't perfectly cloud native ready. So it took workloads or applications to start. It took about 15 minutes for them to start. So these are, if you're actually thinking about replacing nodes, applications that really reduce the benefit of cloud native and that you might need to exchange over time. And then on top of that, you naturally have your applications. You might need to, you also need to configure your clusters. You need to make sure that they follow the security requirements. You need to make sure that the teams understand what breaking changes there are. So there are many aspects that the platform team manages and really helps your development teams get the best out of it in the shortest period of time. So stop wasting the friction that you would typically experience with getting your head wrapped around the cloud native technologies and the cloud native platform. So they can then focus on developing out the applications as the project teams can then really accelerate the development of their cloud native applications and the microservices and shorten time to market. And then you naturally have also aspects like CI/CD pipelines and other things that help your development teams become more and more efficient. On the very right-hand side, I entered an arrow that basically goes from generic to specific. In general, you might have specific requirements in your data center, like banks may have certain prerequisites they need to follow that aren't as generic as in many other companies. but in general, they are not very generic to, let's say, the banking industry. So they are very, very generic to the banking industry. So that means that you then have, let's say, knowledge and resources and technology that can help you very, very easily. And that's where we already see a lot of outsourcing going on, moving the data center capabilities to the cloud, for example, where you can then reuse what is already developed and provided as a service to all kinds of companies and industries. The same is true for the cloud native stack, which basically is a huge CNCF community that develops these functionalities that then also is knowledge that you can apply to many different industries. Where it becomes very specific is when it revolves around your own applications, where you've got capabilities that you need to build out that differentiate yourself from the competition, and that's where we actually see that it's very, very specific at some level. And these are also the elements that when you consider how to quickly move to cloud native and how to accelerate your adoption, makes it more difficult to outsource unless you naturally have a service provider that implements an application for you. Then that's naturally their capability. But typically, you actually can outsource all the capabilities from a data center and the orchestration platform. But you might tend to keep the specific knowledge in-house, which is the product teams and the platform team. So these capabilities and skills are required, and it allows you to understand how you can accelerate by having your team focus on your applications and the services that differentiate you from the competition, and leave the remainders to companies that can help you with their knowledge, with their experience, with their technology, to really embark on a cloud-native journey as quickly as possible and make sure that you reap the benefits as quickly as possible. So if we look at all the capabilities that you might need, just to give you an idea, I added a screenshot from our tenant cluster architecture just to give you an idea that it's a lot more than just Kubernetes. So you've naturally got the Kubernetes API and the kubelet in the master, respectively, in the nodes, and then but then you naturally have a lot of technology surrounding this to make everything happen and work very nicely. Be it a Calico, core DNS, then naturally for the containers you might use Docker. Then you need to configure the ingress controllers to handle the incoming traffic. Then you might have Vault for your secrets, Prometheus for monitoring, Helm for additional applications, Elasticsearch and Logstash for the monitoring of the observability, and so on and so forth. So there are lots of technologies that you need to manage, and that's what makes cloud native quite complex over time, especially the more complex the setups get with different, let's say, multi-cloud approaches, with different regions, with different applications you may be running. So there are lots of areas that you need to build expertise in, and that's what really leads to companies being held back on the cloud native journey, and that's an area that you can easily address. If we look at requirements for a rapid and reliable cloud-native environment, there are two main aspects you need to consider. One is the technology aspect, which is already very well covered, I believe, and one is the operations level. So how you can really run and provide a very stable, reliable, scalable platform to your teams and enable them to adopt cloud-native methodologies very, very quickly. If you go through these in detail, What we see a lot is that open source, the whole Kubernetes platform and all surrounding projects are open source, so you can actually start off completely yourself. What you should look at is to really understand what providers may provide or may create a lock-in for you, and we'll take a look at that in just a minute, where we can look at the different operations models and how they allow you to stay as flexible as possible. The space is developing very, very rapidly, so a prerequisite really for reaping the benefits of a cloud native is to make sure that you can flexibly choose to switch your technology and then run on that new technology very, very easily. That's especially valid if you're thinking about multi-cloud, so having on-premise and let's say one cloud provider or several cloud providers. So you need to make sure that you're actually not locked into the specific services that these cloud providers enable you to use, and that's naturally in their best interest to keep you on their platform as long as possible. They naturally have benefits. If you're already fully committed and can sign with the blood that you will never change, then naturally that's not an issue. But if you really want to run a multi-cloud and want to evolve over time, this is something you might need to watch out for. Another aspect is, as I mentioned, the upgrades and the security fixes are being issued very, very frequently. We get upgrades to these different tools or different components nearly on a weekly basis. So making sure that everything stays up and running, that you don't run into the same issue again, requires you to run upgrades very frequently. So that's a capability that where you actually decide on how to support that best to make sure that you can actually rely on a very secure and stable platform. And then another aspect naturally is automation. There are many elements, so Kubernetes is designed for a single cluster. There are many elements that you can use, like operators that help you then use multiple clusters, that you can use your own integrations, and that you need to make sure that auto scaling is there, that you have the flexibility to use whatever you want to use, but at the same time, you want to keep operations as efficient as possible. So automating configurations, automating deployments, automating upgrades, and all these things are very important that in many cases are not part of the standard package, but come with additional software that you can then install and run if you decide to do it yourself, or can be provided by a service provider. What you can also then focus on is the second and, in my perspective, more important aspect, which is running it. We call it the day two operations. So once you install it and then basically develop your cloud capabilities, at some stage you want to go live, and that's where it becomes very important to really have a view onto 24/7 management of the platform around the clock, making sure that everything's up and running, ensuring a decent amount of uptime. So being able to identify issues, going in and fixing them, making sure that your platform stays reliable is very, very important to your internal customers and actually also to the external customers that use your services. As I mentioned before, you can actually use your internal staff to build out the capabilities of the cloud native platform, but also to help your development teams consume the cloud native platform as efficiently and easily as possible. And that's where direct conversation comes in. So who actually can help you if you've got any questions? Who can go in and take a look if you experience something? Being able to do that yourself is a great capability, but in many cases you actually wouldn't have sufficient resources and skills to do that, and that's where it's very helpful to actually have experts that you can rely on that help you answer questions that you run into, especially when you consider moving very, very quickly on cloud native, how you can benefit from someone who actually already has been there and can help you figure out if it's a problem or not, and how to get around the problem that you're experiencing. High security is a must, a given. So being able to use or role-based access and pod security policies from the start, making sure that it's every team uses it as a part of governance is a must. So you actually don't have to worry about it, and you don't have to redevelop or change your application once you activate a more secure setup. Which can frequently happen. So starting off with a very, very high security setup allows you to really reduce development time, especially further on in the project where you actually want to build out new functionality or adapt functionality to the customer needs. And another aspect naturally is also the root cause analysis, making sure that you can then, once you identify an issue, you go in and figure out what caused the issue instead of just restarting a node and then pulling up the new version of the application and running into the same issue over and over again. So these are all aspects that you should consider when you're thinking about cloud native. Once we actually go into the different operations models, that's something where we actually will just quickly jump back and forth to check the different boxes and understand, but get a better understanding of where you can benefit from these requirements and what areas you will have to build out yourself, and then naturally have a slower adoption cycle in terms of cloud native, because you only have a certain amount of skills and resources available. So let's quickly look at the different operations models. And this is, by the way, taken from Gartner, so it's nothing that we came up with, it's just something that we see in the market and is generally perceived. So either you build out the cloud native stack all by yourself, so that's where companies like Zalando or 101 or other companies actually invested quite some energy into building out the cloud native stack all by themselves. They take the open source technology, they add the different components to it, they start rolling it out, fixing it, automating everything. So that's where you can actually get everything covered from the previous side. But it naturally takes also quite some time, unless you already have more than plenty of resources available to do that and the skills to do that. It's just a question of time. So understanding what you need to consider going through the experience is something that is holding quite some companies back. We know from companies like Zalando, they actually have invested had about 40 people developing out the cloud native stack over a period of I think 1.5 to 2.5 years. So that's something where it just takes time. It will probably get faster over time, but it still requires you a significant investment in resources and in time to actually reach to a level that other companies may have. And keep in mind, the internal team on all these pillars gets less and less, but that doesn't mean that the teams get less and less. It's just that you can allocate more resources of your internal team to help developers develop cloud native applications more efficiently. So this is just the focus on the cloud native stack and not on the applications on top, which naturally require about the same amount of internal team to build out your specific use cases. With a public cloud provider like AKS or EKS or GKE, you actually get a lot of things out of the box, so you can already start very, very quickly. I already spoke to a customer that basically said that they use that for testing their workloads, and they can very easily use that for the testing environment. But once you actually go into production, once you want to support use cases, then have a lot of automation in place, you really need to add another stack of components to it, and you need to monitor it and manage it 24/7 all by yourself. So yes, it actually gives you some head start, but again, keep in mind that you will dedicate a significant amount of time of your internal resources to provide a cloud-native platform that is capable of delivering a highly reliable and secure platform. Container management platforms, these are third-party distributions that you can buy or you can license, and that's where you may get more and more components. You might get more services on top of that that may help you implement blueprints and so on. So these are elements that will help you get even more rapid adoption, but still you need to manage it 24/7. So you need to build up that experience and that knowledge, and we need to evolve that over time. And that's where basically we attack in terms of saying that we actually we know that we are fully dedicated to the cloud native. Our whole company is focused on managing cloud native for different customers. So whatever we see with other customers gets resolved for all other customers. So we actually don't run into the same issue again. If something goes down or if something becomes risky, we get paged, we take a look at it, and then we come up with recommendations. Should an issue be a result of your application delivering, and like this morning I just saw a chat where the application was dumping a lot of logs into the node, and then basically bringing the node down, or potentially risking of taking the node down. These are elements where we actually help because we want to make sure that everything is up and running, and if your application creates an issue for the platform, then we help in that area to make sure that everything stays as stable and reliable as possible. And that's where a fully managed cloud native provider comes in, like we are. So if we actually look at accelerating adoption of cloud native, that's where it helps a lot if you actually have something that you can use already out of the box. And that's what, for example, fully managed cloud providers already deliver, but also if you buy a product. So if you then license a product that already has the cloud native stack, that actually already gives you a great head start in terms of time. In terms of knowledge, is something that you still need to build up, and that's where there's a core difference between a fully managed provider and a self-managed solution, that then naturally takes time away from your teams, internal teams that need to build up the skills, that need to manage the platform, instead of being able to focus and work together with your development teams to make sure that their process of deploying and developing applications becomes as efficient as possible. You naturally can do everything yourself. It takes a longer time. The value is a lot higher, but still there you need to manage. So it actually takes a lot of time and effort away that you actually could use to accelerate your cloud native adoption. If you look at a couple of examples, this is these are some companies we actually work together with that already have adopted a fully managed service. So the global rollout of the new website for a web shop for Adidas is something that they developed, and we actually managed the cloud native platform for them. So everything that, if you go back to the initial screen where you had the cloud providers and then the cloud native stack or the container orchestration platform, basically they can focus on developing their product, which is their global web shop, and make sure that everything stays up and running. They still have a team of several people that keep an eye on making sure that their their workloads can really respond to the customer needs, especially like events like Single Day or Black Friday or year-end sales, Christmas sales or whatever. And they then also evaluate new applications that will help their development teams become more and more efficient. But that's what Adidas does, and we're now looking at other areas where we can provide the cloud native stacks, especially for big data analytics and other areas that then help them build out new capabilities and address needs of customers a lot faster and provide them services that allow them to capture market share and naturally also increase the profit margins with additional services that they can build out on top of their core product. Shutterstock is another nice example. They started off the cloud native journey themselves, so they implemented the solution themselves, but they quickly realized, or quickly is relative, that it actually takes a lot of time and consumes a lot of energy to keep everything up and running, and that removes the focus that they actually wanted to have, which is to focus on building out their digital product. So what they decided then to do is to hand over the management to us of the cloud native platform, so they can then focus on developing their digital products, and that's what we've been doing for a while now. Thailand is a great example for a company that started off on a cloud native journey. I held a talk at one of their tech events where I talked about cloud native and how that is actually quite different to the traditional way of developing applications. And it was very interesting to see that the project we're engaged in is one of the first cloud native projects they have in the company, but it allowed them to really build up that knowledge together with us, because we actually, we provide a direct chat channel, so whatever question that may be on top of your head, they can ask this question in the chat channel, get an answer within a couple of minutes. So we actually get rid of all the friction that you typically have when you embark on a new technology and a new approach. And that helped them build out a digital product, an IoT product, where they can then go out and do predictive maintenance on the heating systems that they sell, and also improve the experience, the customer experience, by having data where their service providers can better engage with their customers around how to optimize heating and how to do predictive maintenance in terms of changing parts that may cause the heating system to fail at some stage. So they can now build out this additional business and additional revenue on top, and profit margin on top of their original product, and allows them to compete with other companies, especially from the Far East, that come up with these services and technologies quite rapidly. They actually are in a very, very good trajectory to become and remain very, very competitive. And Vodafone, being a last example, is that they basically started off as a single team with a single, what they call the digital experience layer, which is the connection between the front-end applications, where there are about 300 million Vodafone customers interacting with back-end systems, which are and will remain in a monolithic approach, and they built out this digital experience layer in a cloud-native way to then enable rapid application development on the front-end side. And now they actually have, I think, at least 10 teams that have asked them to support bringing their applications onto a cloud-native basis, because they've just experienced that they wouldn't be capable of doing it all by themselves. With the help of Transform, they can now help the internal teams develop these new applications and embark on the cloud-native journey a lot faster than if every team would have to build up that knowledge and experience all by themselves. So yeah, these are different use cases of companies that have rapidly evolved along this space. Just a quick overview to what we provide, which is a dedicated Transform control plane on top of on-premise applications, AWS, Azure. Then you can start off your clusters, many different clusters at the same time, ideally for every team, and several for every team, like development, staging, production. And then you can actually have your managed apps on top of that. You can use the Helm catalog. You can use the catalog that is fully managed by us, which allows you to add more and more time to help your teams. And then also a private catalog if you've got special requirements that you want to deploy and make sure that is available to all your internal clients. That's something then you can manage on top of that. And as I said, we focus on day two operations, so we naturally help you building up and providing with an environment where you can then quickly develop new applications on top of that. But then, especially once you switch the button and go productive, then you have a whole lot of other requirements that make it very difficult, and where you need to evolve your cloud-native platform quite heavily to make sure that everything stays up and running and is as efficient to configure as possible. So with that, I just want to finish off with a couple of recommendations on, especially since half of the crowd here is thinking about cloud native. The best way to embark on the fastest way to cloud native is really to find a team that is motivated to fully adopt cloud native. So yeah, make sure that you can have a motivated team that wants to start off and really adopt this new approach. And then train them, make sure that they understand the cloud native, make sure that everyone is up and ready, and then provide them with a fully managed cloud platform so they can then install the applications and get the support that they need to move as quickly as possible. And then not spoil the ocean at the very beginning, but keep in mind what all the requirements may be that will turn up over time, but then really plan out to iteratively evolve on your cloud native journey and make sure that everything is as successful as possible. With that, I would like to complete this webinar. I hope you actually had some aspects that were new to you and that will help you make a decision going forward with cloud native as rapidly as possible. Understand how you can position it with business stakeholders as it actually will result in higher revenue and greater profit margins faster, which is basically the key imperative for cloud native. And with that, I would like to open the questions round. If you've got any questions, you can ask them in public or private, or if you would like to have a discussion with or around cloud native and how to best embark on a rapid journey, just send me an email or give me a call, and more than happy to set up a meeting to discuss your specific ideas and requirements. So with that, I'm just opening the question tab here. I see one question coming in, which is around the cloud native adoption. What is holding your teams and what is holding them back in terms of the technology or the teams? From my perspective, it actually is more the teams that the team setup that is holding back. There's tons of technology out there. There's very good technology out there. If you use it properly, if you configure it properly, then that's not a problem. I know many projects, open source projects, they make it very easy to install and to use in the very beginning, but you need to put some thought into how to configure it properly for a production setup. So that's something that you might need to consider. and it comes down to basically the knowledge and skills within your team, and the resources that you have to spend time doing it, and there is not much value for you to focus on something that is commodity, basically, so that everyone can use. It actually benefits, or your company benefits a lot more from focusing on what capabilities your digital products build out and deliver to your customers, and that result then in the opportunities that you can unleash for your company. Are there any other questions?